Despite having a decently sized collection of physical music, the vast majority of my music is stored on my server. And since my living room setup is a mixture of 80s, 90s and 2000s components, I did not have a way to play these digital files. Nor without getting my LG G5 or my iPod out, depending on which sort of pain I want to endure. But thanks to Fami's video, I have not only found a solution to this problem, but what is seriously one of the coolest tech products I have had my hands on. This is the Logitech Squeezebox Duet from 2008. The Duet are two units as the name suggests, the receiver and the remote. My first assumption was that these two devices communicate to each other, but that's not strictly true. A computer or Raspberry Pi acts as the hub for these devices. A computer is necessary because it is used as a server, streaming your audio directly to the receiver, and that also includes the radio too from what I can tell. So the Duet isn't as smart as it seems, but that's fine, because it means that a server application can be expanded upon, while the hardware and firmware can't, which I'll talk about shortly, because I love Lyrian Music Server. But let me first tell you about the Duet's features. The Duet allows you to stream locally stored music to your hi-fi amplifier, whether you have an 80s or 90s one that only takes in RCA such as mine, or a more modern receiver that has digital inputs. The Duet also has Wi-Fi, which you cannot take for granted considering that the device is from 2008. As well as locally stored music, you can also stream the radio. Both of these features have seriously impressive add-on features. Even if a song is played from the radio, as long as the radio embeds a playlist file in the stream, you can search for the artist's discography, album reviews, see pictures of the artist, and even get lyrics for the song that's playing. What a seriously fantastic and rich feature set. The only thing I wished I was included was album art for each song on the radio, but I believe that this has to also be handled by the radio station, and the two local radio stations that I listen to do this externally on the Android app only. Of course, all of these smart features are also made available for your local files, providing your file metadata is correct. What really made me jump the gun on buying the Duet was the remote though. Yes, it's cool to be able to control my hi-fi with it, but what is far cooler is the fact that the remote comes with a headphone jack. And it's not just some chintzy thing. Both the remote and the receiver come with woofs and DACs. I've dropped a link to the measurements if you're interested, but they both sound pretty fantastic. In terms of the DAC on the receiver, got no complaints with it, sounds really good on these speakers. In terms of the one on the controller, comparing it to the B&O module on my LG G5, it's definitely not as bassy. It's a pretty flat, clinical, almost metallic sound, and the reason for that is the instrumentation and the vocals are so pronounced and they are so clear, and the soundstage is wider than the LG as well. So for sort of more instrumental songs or for more instrument heavy songs, really good, but for anything like dance and electronic, not as good, but still really happy with it. So that's more or less the original main features of the Squeezebox platform. Since the Logitech server for controlling Squeezeboxes has been killed last year, the community took over with the Lyrian Music Server, which adds so many cool features that the Duet never received with Logitech. You can now stream music via Tidal, Qobuz or Spotify. Sadly I cannot test this as I don't use any of these platforms. You can also use Lyrian to control AirPlay devices, which opens up a massive opportunity for me. I have a bedroom hi-fi as well, and I currently stream my music to it via Bluetooth. But knowing that the remote can stream to AirPlay devices, I could grab a cheap Apple AirPod Express instead of another Squeezebox receiver to stream my music that way. I've also learned that you can use a Raspberry Pi as a Squeezebox receiver, or how about using your iPhone or Android device as a remote and receiver? Thanks to community apps, the Lyrian server is entirely browser-based, so without the need for any apps, I can control Squeezebox receivers that way too. Few things to round off this video. The remote also has an accelerometer, so it turns on when you pick it up, and has a backlight for the buttons for late night listening. Very nice. It also has a scroll wheel like the original iPod as it's a physical wheel, which might not be the best for longevity, but what is good for longevity however is the ability to swap the battery for a new one. And the replacement batteries are still sold, which is great. Thankfully, you don't only have the option to use TuneIn for radio, which in the UK has blocked international radios, as radio.net is supported, and if you can manually locate them, you can also add in your own radio streams too. I honestly cannot believe that this device came out in 2008 because it feels so ahead of its time. But also let's be real, no one but nerds and audiophiles have hi-fi units now. Thankfully however, the Squeezebox Radio exists, which is a portable speaker with a screen on it. Again, very ahead of its time, since that's pretty much expected nowadays. Once again, a thank you to Fami for introducing me to this device. I will leave a link to her video which goes in depth on the history of the Squeezebox brand. And if you enjoyed this video, please let me know.